Newark, New Jersey, August 18th, 3:47 a.m. A yellow taxi cut through the empty streets, its headlights slicing through the darkness like blades of light. Behind the wheel, Marcus Webb, 47 years old, 15 of them driving that same worn-out car. A tired man. A man who had given up feeling a long time ago. A man living on autopilot night after night, ride after ride, with no purpose beyond surviving until the next sunrise. He was about to end his shift when he saw it. A figure running, barefoot, desperate, crossing Riverside Avenue as if hell itself were chasing them. Marcus hesitated. Every Newark cab driver learns early. Don't stop for strangers at dawn. Don't get involved. Don't be a hero. Go home. Live to drive another day. But there was something about that figure. Something in the way they ran. In the pure desperation stamped on that face, illuminated by the red neon of an abandoned motel. And then, Marcus saw what the man was carrying in his arms. A baby, wrapped in a dirty blanket, motionless, too quiet. The man banged on the taxi window with both hands, and Marcus saw in his eyes the kind of terror no one can fake. The kind of desperation that's born when you're about to lose the only thing that matters in the world. "Please," the man begged, his voice breaking. "Please, save my baby." Marcus unlocked the door, and in that moment, without knowing it, he made a choice that would change 2 lives forever. Actually, 3. Because some decisions create ripples far beyond what we can see. What you're about to hear is not fiction. It's the kind of story that happens in silence, in the shadows of dawn, when 2 strangers meet at the exact moment one needs to be saved, and the other needs to save. It's about a father fighting against the impossible. It's about a man carrying a guilt that was killing him from the inside. It's about a child between life and death. This is the story of a taxi ride that should have lasted 15 minutes, but echoed through an entire lifetime. The question haunting Marcus that night is not just, will I be able to save this child? It's, if I save them, will I be saving myself? Welcome aboard Marcus's taxi. The ride is beginning, and you're in the back seat. The Newark dawn had that heavy silence that only exists when the city finally falls asleep. It was 3:47 a.m. when Marcus was driving his yellow taxi down the empty streets with the exhaustion of someone who had already seen too much that night. At 47 years old, 15 of them behind the wheel of that worn-out Crown Victoria, he knew every corner, every traffic light, every shadow of that city that never fully slept. The red neon of an abandoned motel reflected on the wet asphalt, creating puddles of light that looked like blood diluted in the fine rain. Marcus adjusted the rearview mirror, rubbed his tired eyes, and checked the dashboard clock. 15 more minutes and he would end his shift. 15 minutes until he could go home, take off his boots, take a hot shower, and forget he existed. That was when he saw the figure. A staggering shape emerged between the unlit street lamps of Riverside Avenue. Someone running, barefoot, a torn shirt fluttering in the cold dawn wind. Marcus felt that familiar instinct tighten his chest, the one that screamed for him to accelerate. Move on. Don't get involved. Newark at night taught harsh lessons about when to stop and when to pretend you didn't see anything. But there was something different about that figure. The way he ran wasn't like someone fleeing, but someone chasing something impossible to reach. Desperation. Marcus recognized that movement. He had seen it before, in another time, in another face that still haunted his dreams. He slowed down. The headlight beam caught the man's face. He wasn't old, maybe in his 30s, but the panic carved into his features made him look decades older. Sweat mixed with rain ran down his forehead. His wide eyes searched for salvation anywhere. The man saw the taxi and sprinted straight toward it. Marcus instinctively pressed the door lock. Automatic protection. Survival. But then he saw what the man was carrying in his arms. A small bundle wrapped in a worn, dirty blanket. A baby. The stranger's hands pounded against the wet window with violent desperation. "Please!" The voice came out hoarse, broken. "Please, my baby. She's not responding. Please." Marcus hesitated for 3 seconds that felt like 3 hours. Every street rule he had ever learned screamed at him to drive away. Don't get involved. Don't be a hero. Don't risk your life for strangers at dawn. But something in that cry, in that desperate plea, tore through every barrier Marcus had built around his heart in the last 10 years. He unlocked the door. The man stumbled in, almost collapsing onto the back seat. His bare feet left mud and blood marks on the worn upholstery. The smell that came with him was a mix of cheap cigarettes, days-old sweat, and something else, the sweet, nauseating odor of pure despair. In his arms, wrapped in that blanket that had once been white but was now gray with dirt, was a baby, far too small, far too quiet, that unnatural stillness that made anyone's heart stop. "Hospital," the man gasped. "Hospital now, please, sir, please." Marcus didn't answer. He simply slammed his foot on the accelerator. The taxi groaned as it gained speed, the tires screeching on the wet asphalt. Newark's empty streets turned into blurs of yellow light and shadows. Red lights were ignored. Crosswalks were flown past without hesitation. The rearview mirror captured fragments of the scene in the back seat. The man rocked the baby with frantic movements, whispering words in Spanish that Marcus didn't fully understand, but whose meaning was universal. "Please don't die. Please stay with me, please." The stranger's hands trembled violently. Marcus noticed the dirty fingers, the bitten nails, the cracked skin of someone who worked hard. He also noticed the way he held that child, with a tenderness that brutally contrasted with his wrecked appearance. "What happened?" Marcus asked, his voice harsher than he intended. The man looked up. His eyes were red, swollen, lost. What happened to her? And in that moment, in that yellow taxi speeding through the Newark dawn at more than 100 kilometers an hour, 2 lives crossed in a way neither of them would ever forget. The answer would come. But first, they needed to reach the hospital. First, they needed to hope there was still time. The words began to come out in fragments, like shards of broken glass that Tyler was trying to piece together while the taxi sliced through the dawn at full speed. Marcus kept his eyes on the road, but every fiber of his attention was focused on the back seat, on that trembling voice struggling to tell a story no one should ever have to live. I work in 2 places, Tyler began, his breathing uneven. Warehouse during the day, from 6 in the morning to 3 in the afternoon. I load boxes, unload trucks. Then I go straight downtown, office cleaning, from 5 in the evening to midnight. Marcus pressed harder on the accelerator. The avenue was empty, only the streetlights passing by like silent sentinels witnessing that desperate race. 3 days, Tyler continued, his voice cracking. It had been 3 days since I slept properly. The rent was late, 2 months. The motel owner said he'd throw me out if I didn't pay. So I took extra shifts, doubled up, worked nonstop. Marcus looked in the rearview mirror. Tyler held the baby against his chest, rocking, always rocking, as if the movement could bring her back. "Her mother?" Marcus asked, the question slipping out before he could think twice. The silence that followed was as heavy as lead. "She left," Tyler finally replied. 6 months ago. I woke up one morning and she was gone. Left just a paper on the kitchen table. Handwritten. "I can't do this anymore, sorry." That's it. 3 words in Portuguese. Not even in English. He let out a bitter laugh that sounded more like a sob. Emma was 2 months old. 2 months. And she just left. Marcus felt something tighten in his chest. He knew that kind of abandonment. He knew the feeling of waking up and discovering that someone decided you weren't enough, that life with you was too heavy to carry. "Since then it's been just me and Emma," Tyler said, looking down at the child in his arms. 8 months now. 8 months doing everything alone. Diapers, bottles, doctor visits, everything. And it was working. I was managing. Even tired, even broke, I was managing. His voice broke completely. But these 3 days, I didn't sleep. Didn't sleep at all. Worked straight through to get the money. This morning, when I came back to the room, I fell on the bed next to her. Emma was sleeping in the crib, that second-hand crib I bought for $20. I just closed my eyes for a second. Marcus saw the tears streaming down Tyler's face through the rear-view mirror. When I woke up, it was already night. It was dark, cold, and Emma, she wasn't crying. She wasn't making any sound. I picked her up and she was cold. Cold, man. Like ice. Her lips were purple. I shook her, yelled her name, blew air in her mouth, did everything I saw on TV, but she didn't. The taxi crossed an intersection, the red lights of the traffic signal reflecting like blood on the wet windshield. Marcus didn't slow down. There was no time for rules, for signals, for anything except reaching the hospital. Tyler, Marcus said, his voice firm. What's her name? Your daughter's name? Emma, he whispered. Emma Sophia. Because of my grandmother. The only person in the family who didn't turn her back on me when I came here. Marcus glanced at the digital taximeter blinking on the dashboard. $43. 50. 60. The numbers kept rising, indifferent to the human tragedy unfolding in the back seat. He reached over and turned the device off with a decisive click. This was no longer a ride. It wasn't work. It was something else, something Marcus couldn't name, but recognized deep in his soul. How old is she, Emma? Marcus asked, keeping his voice calm, trying to keep Tyler focused, present. 8 months. She'll be 9 next week. I was gonna make a cake. I was gonna take the day off work. Her first birthday, I'd actually be able to celebrate properly. Marcus felt a phantom pain cut through his chest. 8 months. Sarah was 16 when she died, but he remembered her at 8 months. Remembered holding that tiny body, counting her little fingers, swearing he'd do everything right, that he'd be the father she deserved. He didn't. He failed. And Sarah paid the price. You'll be able to celebrate, Marcus said, surprised by the conviction in his own voice. We're gonna get there in time. How do you know? Tyler asked, and there was so much desperation in that question it sliced like a blade. Marcus didn't answer immediately. He couldn't say that he knew. He couldn't promise what he couldn't control, but he could do one thing. He could be there. He could make sure that man wasn't alone in the worst moment of his life. Because you didn't give up, Marcus finally said. You ran barefoot in the rain. You fought. She's going to feel that. In the back seat, Tyler clutched Emma against his chest and cried silently. And Marcus drove faster, chasing the light of the hospital that began to rise on the horizon, an ambiguous promise glowing in the darkness of Newark's dawn. The green sign for St. Michael Hospital appeared in the distance, lit by floodlights that sliced through the darkness like blades of light. Marcus felt his chest tighten, not from relief, but from a different tension, thicker, heavier. They were close, very close. 6 blocks, he announced out loud, more to himself than to Tyler. 6 blocks and we're there. The taxi sped past a closed bakery, its dark windows reflecting the yellow of the vehicle like a fast-moving ghost. The rain had slowed to a fine mist that made everything blurry, unreal, as if they were inside a bad dream they couldn't wake from. 5 blocks, Marcus continued, turning sharply left on Lexington Avenue. That was when he heard a strange sound coming from the back seat. It wasn't crying. It was worse. A fast, irregular breathing. The kind of sound someone makes right before total panic overtakes them. Tyler? Marcus looked in the rearview mirror. Tyler, you okay? No. The answer came as a hoarse whisper. No. I can't go in there. Marcus slowed slightly, confused. What are you talking about? We're almost there, 4 blocks. You don't understand, Tyler said, his voice climbing in desperation. I don't have documents. I don't have anything. They're gonna ask. They're gonna want ID, insurance, everything. And I don't have it. Realization began to dawn in Marcus's mind, like a cold, merciless sunrise. You don't have documents because I'm not legal here, Tyler interrupted, the words spilling out in a desperate rush. I came from Mexico 8 years ago, crossed near El Paso. I paid a coyote who left me in the middle of the desert. Almost died of thirst, but I made it. I made it and I stayed. I work, I pay rent, I don't do anything wrong. But I don't have papers, I don't have anything. Marcus felt his stomach flip. He knew this story. He had seen it before many times. Newark was full of people like Tyler, working in the shadows, building the city, keeping it running, but always invisible, always afraid. "And Emma?" he asked, already knowing the answer. "Emma was born here, at the public hospital in Jersey City. She's American. She has a birth certificate, everything. But me?" Tyler's voice broke. "If I go in that hospital, they're gonna ask questions. They'll call social services. And when they find out I'm undocumented, they'll take her away. They'll deport me. They'll put Emma with a foster family or some institution, and I'll never see my daughter again." 3 blocks, Marcos said automatically, but his mind was racing. Tyler wasn't wrong. Marcus had seen it happen. Once, 2 years ago, he drove a Guatemalan woman in labor. She begged him not to call an ambulance. At the hospital, they asked the right questions, or the wrong ones, depending on how you looked at it. She was deported 3 weeks later. The baby stayed in the system. "Stop the car," Tyler said suddenly. "Please, stop the car. Turn around. Go back." "What?" Marcus stared at him through the rearview mirror in disbelief. "Tyler, your daughter is—" "I know!" Tyler screamed, the sound raw like a wounded animal. "I know she's dying, but if I go in there, I lose her anyway. They'll take her from me. They'll send me back to Mexico and she'll stay here, grow up not even knowing who her father is. At least if I don't go, she stays with me. She dies with me, but she stays with me." The taxi crossed a blinking yellow light. 2 blocks. Marcus could see the emergency entrance lights now, the bright red sign. Emergency. "You're saying you'd rather let your daughter die than risk being separated from her?" Marcus asked, keeping his voice steady through sheer force. "It's not choosing." Tyler was sobbing openly now. "I don't have a choice." "What choice do I have?" Marcus gripped the steering wheel so tightly, his knuckles turned white. The sound of the rain on the car body was like a million fingers tapping, tapping, tapping. The windshield wipers scraped in a hypnotic rhythm. Their breathing echoed in the small space of the taxi. 1 block, Marcus said. "Stop!" Tyler begged. "Please, sir, turn back. Turn back!" Marcus grabbed the cell phone from the dashboard with one hand, keeping the other on the wheel. He dialed 911 without looking. A voice answered on the second ring. "Emergency. What's your location?" "St. Michael Hospital," Marcus said quickly. "I'm arriving with a baby in critical condition. Hypothermia, I think. I need a team at the door. Now." He hung up before they could ask questions. "No," Tyler whispered. No, please." Marcus braked in front of the emergency entrance. The automatic doors glowed like the mouth of some enormous creature. 2 nurses were already running out, alerted by the call. He turned in his seat, facing Tyler directly for the first time. "Listen," Marcus said, and his voice held something that hadn't been there before. Something as hard as steel, but as warm as fire. "You're right. They might try to take her from you. They probably will. But you know what's guaranteed? If you don't get out of this car right now, she dies. Not maybe, not probably, definitely. And then, you don't lose her to the government. You lose her forever." The nurses knocked on the window. "Not if she's alive," Marcus continued. "If she's alive, you can fight. You can get a lawyer, you can battle, you can do whatever it takes. But only if she's alive." Tyler looked at Emma, at her small purple face, at her still body, and then he opened the door. The taxi stopped with a harsh jolt in front of the emergency entrance, the tires screeching on the wet asphalt. Marcus honked 3 times, 3 long, desperate blasts that tore through the silence of the dawn like sirens. The automatic glass doors slid open, and 2 nurses appeared running, a metal gurney between them reflecting the fluorescent lights of the hallway. Tyler opened the taxi door but couldn't move. He stayed there, frozen, with Emma in his arms, his bare feet still inside the car, his body half in, half out, as if stuck between 2 worlds, one where his daughter might live, and another where he would lose her either way. "Sir!" one of the nurses shouted, a tall black man with glasses. "We need the child. Now!" But Tyler didn't move. His eyes were fixed on the automatic doors, on that illuminated portal that could save him or destroy him. Marcus turned off the engine, got out of the taxi, and walked around to the back door. The fine rain wet his face, cold as reality itself. He placed a hand on Tyler's shoulder, a firm, solid, real touch. "I'm going with you," Marcus said, and it wasn't a question. Tyler looked up, and in his eyes there was so much fear, so much gratitude, so much despair that Marcus felt something break inside his chest. "You don't have to go alone," Marcus continued. "We'll go together." And it was as if those words shattered the spell. Tyler stepped out of the car, stumbling, and the nurses immediately took Emma from his arms. The baby looked even smaller in the hands of the medical team, a fragile bundle of humanity that could fall apart at any moment. "How long has she been like this?" asked the nurse, an Asian woman with her hair tied back, as she ran inside with the baby. "I don't know," Tyler answered, running after her. "Hours. Maybe 3, 4 hours. Was she breathing?" I don't know. I couldn't feel it." The automatic doors closed behind them with a pneumatic sigh. The world outside, the rain, the darkness, the empty streets, vanished. Now there was only harsh fluorescent light, the sharp smell of disinfectant and antiseptic, stained white linoleum floors, and the sound of rubber shoes moving quickly in all directions. Marcus and Tyler were guided into a waiting room, while the medical team disappeared with Emma through double doors marked "Restricted Area." The silence that followed was deafening. A receptionist appeared behind a glass counter, her tired eyes behind reading glasses. "We need information," she said mechanically, pushing a clipboard with forms through the opening. Full name of the child, date of birth, address, medical insurance, names of parents or guardians. Tyler took the clipboard with trembling hands. He stared at the forms as if they were written in hieroglyphics. The letters danced, scrambled by panic and exhaustion. "He doesn't speak English very well," Marcus lied gently, stepping beside him. "I can help." The receptionist nodded, indifferent. Marcus took the pen and began to fill out the form. Name, Emma Sofia Martinez. Date of birth. Tyler whispered the details, and Marcus wrote them down. Address, Riverside Motel, room 12. Medical insurance, none. That was when the social worker appeared. She was a middle-aged white woman, gray-streaked hair tied in a tight bun, carrying a worn leather folder. She had that look Marcus recognized. The look of someone who had seen too much. Someone trained to detect problems before they even fully formed. "I'm Linda Kowalski, Hospital Social Services," she introduced herself, sitting in front of them. "I need to ask a few questions about the child's situation." Tyler shrank in his seat. "Is the child's mother present?" Linda asked, pen poised over a notepad. "No," Tyler answered softly. "She left." "When did she leave?" 6 months ago." Linda wrote it down. "And do you have legal custody of the child?" Tyler looked at Marcus, lost. "The child was born here," Marcus said, stepping in. "He's the biological father. The mother abandoned them. There's no custody dispute. It wasn't a lie. It wasn't the full truth either. But it was enough." "Permanent address?" Linda continued, relentless. "Riverside Motel," Tyler replied. "How long?" 3 months. "And before that?" "Another motel. On 18th Street. Linda stopped writing and looked directly at Tyler. "Mr. Martinez, was the child alone when she became ill?" "No," Tyler said quickly. "No, I was there. I'm always there. I just slept. I worked too much, and I slept." "Where do you work?" And there it was, the question that could destroy everything. "Warehouse," Marcus said before Tyler could answer. "And he cleans offices at night. I've known him for years. Good worker, good father. Just had a rough night." Linda looked at Marcus with those eyes that saw straight through professional lies. "And you are?" "Marcus Webb, family friend." It wasn't true. They'd known each other for less than an hour. But in that moment, in that cold hospital at 4 in the morning, it was the most honest truth Marcus had ever spoken. Because 10 years earlier, Marcus had been on the other side. When the police knocked on his door at 3 a.m., saying that Sarah, his 16-year-old daughter, had been found in a nightclub bathroom, heroin overdose, he had been driving the taxi, working, always working, and no one went with him to the hospital. No one put a hand on his shoulder. No one said, "You're not alone." Sarah died alone, and he arrived alone and stayed alone. But Tyler wouldn't. The double doors burst open with a crack. A doctor stepped out, surgical mask pulled down, revealing a young, exhausted face. His eyes scanned the room and found Tyler. The expression on his face was grave. The doctor approached with measured steps, and every second he took to cross that distance felt like an eternity compressed. Tyler stood up from the plastic chair as if made of rusty springs, his entire body tense, bracing for the final blow. "Mr. Martinez?" the doctor asked. He had an Indian accent and a soft voice. The badge on his coat read, "Dr. Patel." "Yes," Tyler whispered. "My daughter. She's... Your daughter is alive." The three words fell like bombs of relief. Tyler staggered, and Marcus immediately stood, grabbing him by the elbow before he collapsed to the floor. "What happened to her, Doctor?" Patel continued, checking a clipboard. "Was severe hypothermia. Her body temperature was at 28 degrees Celsius when she arrived. Normal is 37. She was in a state of near-death induced by extreme cold." "I don't understand," Tyler said, his voice trembling. "It was cold, but not that cold. The room you were staying in..." Dr. Patel looked at him with something between compassion and judgment. "Hard to tell. Did it have heating?" "There was an electric heater. Old. From the motel." "Yeah. Was it working?" Tyler closed his eyes. "I don't know. I don't think so. For days I noticed the room felt cold, but I thought it was just because it was cold outside. Temperatures in Newark dropped to 35 degrees Fahrenheit tonight," the doctor explained. "If the heating wasn't working, and you didn't have proper blankets, an 8-month-old baby can enter hypothermia in just a few hours. Their metabolism can't maintain heat the way ours does." Marcus could feel the guilt radiating off Tyler like something physical, almost tangible. Is she going to be okay?" Tyler asked. And there was so much desperation in that question, it cut right through. "You arrived in time," Dr. Patel said, and for the first time he smiled slightly. "Another 30 minutes and it would be a very different situation. But we rewarmed her gradually. Her cardiac function is stable. Her organs are responding well. She'll need to stay hospitalized for 72 hours under observation, but the prognosis is good." Tyler collapsed. He simply collapsed. His knees buckled and he fell sitting on the cold hospital floor, hands covering his face, and he cried. Cried in a way Marcus had never seen a man cry. Deep, violent sobs that shook his whole body, the sound of something breaking and repairing itself at the same time. Marcus crouched beside him, placed a hand on his back, and said nothing, because there was nothing to say. Being there was enough. "Can I see her?" Tyler finally managed to ask, wiping his face with his dirty hands. "In about an hour," Dr. Patel replied. "She's in the pediatric ICU now, stabilizing. But yes, you will be able to see her." The doctor paused, and something in his expression shifted. More serious, more cautious. "Mr. Martinez, I must inform you that due to the nature of the situation, the hospital's social services will need to conduct a full investigation. This is standard procedure in cases of infant hypothermia. They'll evaluate living conditions, parental capability, financial situation, and there it was. The other shoe dropping. Tyler looked at Marcus, and in that look was a silent question. "What do I do now?" Marcus only nodded. "One step at a time." "I understand," Tyler said to the doctor, his voice weak. Dr. Patel left, leaving them alone in the waiting room that was beginning to fill with the first gray light of dawn filtering through the tall windows. It was nearly 5 in the morning. Outside, the city was waking slowly. The distant rumble of garbage trucks, the first cars on the street. Marcus walked to the coffee machine in the corner, dropped coins, waited as the dark, watery liquid dripped into 2 foam cups. He returned and handed one to Tyler. "Thanks," Tyler said, holding the cup as if it were the most precious thing in the world. They drank in silence for a moment. The coffee was terrible, bitter, watery, probably hours old, but it was warm, and warmth was good. "Why are you doing this?" Tyler asked suddenly. "Why didn't you just leave?" Marcus looked at his own coffee, seeing his distorted reflection in the dark surface. "I had a daughter," he said, the words coming easier than he expected. "Sarah. She died 10 years ago. She was 16. Tyler stayed quiet, waiting. "Overdose," Marcus continued. "Heroin. They found her in a nightclub bathroom downtown. Somebody called an ambulance, but it was too late. When they arrived, she was already gone." "I'm sorry," Tyler said, and it sounded genuine. "I was working." Marcus looked at his hands, still gripping an imaginary steering wheel. "Always working. Driving this damn taxi, doing extra hours, trying to pay the bills. Her mother had left years before, just like Emma's mom. So it was just me and Sarah. But I was never there, always in the taxi, always out on the street." He took a sip of the bitter coffee. "She sent a message that night. A voice message. I had a passenger, didn't answer. I thought, I'll listen later. Later never came." "What did she say?" Tyler asked softly. "In the message?" "I never heard it," Marcus admitted. "Deleted it without listening after the funeral. I couldn't. To this day, I don't know what she wanted to say." Silence stretched between them, heavy but not uncomfortable. "That's why you stopped," Tyler said. "That's why you didn't leave." "That's why I stopped," Marcus confirmed. "Because when you banged on that window, I saw Sarah's face. I saw a chance to do the right thing, to not let someone face their worst moment alone." Tyler extended his hand. Marcus shook it. Two men broken by life, held together by pain and by hope, steadying each other as dawn rose over Newark. Daylight was already fully settled when Marcus made the decision. It wasn't a dramatic moment, no epiphany or divine revelation. It was simply the lost look on Tyler's face as he sat in that plastic chair, his feet still bare, stained with dried blood and mud, staring into nothing. And Marcus realizing he couldn't just walk away. "We're going back to the motel," Marcus said, standing up. "You need to get shoes, clean clothes, and I need to see where you two were living." Tyler blinked, confused. "You don't have to." "I know," Marcus interrupted, "but I'm doing it anyway." The Riverside Motel looked even more depressing under the gray morning light. It was one of those places born old, with peeling mustard-colored paint, rusted balconies, and the kind of parking lot where cars go to die. The neon sign was off, but at night it flickered vacancy, with 2 letters burned out, forming VCAN-Y. Room 12 was on the ground floor, in the back. Tyler opened the door with a key attached to a cracked plastic keychain, and the smell that escaped hit like a punch. Mold, dampness, something sweet from a dirty diaper mixed with the metallic scent of poverty. Marcus walked in and felt his chest tighten. The room was no more than 15 square meters. A double bed pushed against the wall, sagging in the middle. A makeshift crib made from a cardboard box lined with towels. The wall heater was clearly broken, the dial stuck at 0, wires exposed. Empty soup cans piled in a corner, diapers in a grocery bag, a hot plate resting on the nightstand, clothes hung on wire hangers on an exposed pipe. This was Tyler's life. This was Emma's life. "How much are you paying here?" Marcus asked, his voice rougher than he meant. $200 a week, Tyler replied, ashamed. "I know it's a lot, but no place takes you without deposit, without references. Here they just ask for money up front. $800 a month for that hole." Marcus did the math. With 2 jobs, Tyler was making maybe $2,000, $2,200 a month. Take out $800 for rent, leaving $1,400 for food, diapers, clothes, transportation, everything. It was impossible. It was walking a tightrope every single day. "Get your things," Marcus said. "Clean clothes, any documents you have, photos of Emma if you have any. Anything that might help." While Tyler gathered belongings in a worn canvas bag, Marcus looked around, taking in every detail. The crumpled photo taped to the wall, Tyler and Emma, she a newborn, he smiling with exhausted pride. Bottles washed and drying on a tiny towel beside the sink. The little plastic toy, a faded yellow duck, in the improvised crib. Tyler was trying. God, he was trying. "Ready," Tyler said, closing the bag. "This is everything I have." Marcus looked at that bag, a whole life that fit into one sack, and felt something old and familiar awaken inside him. The urge to fix, to help, to care. Something that died with Sarah and that he thought was buried forever. In the next 3 days, Marcus became something he never imagined. A lawyer, a social worker, a strategist, a friend. First, he called Clara Rodriguez, an immigration attorney who occasionally took his taxi. She owed him favors. 2 emergency rides in the middle of the night while her car was in the shop. Clara agreed to take the case pro bono. "It'll be hard," she warned, "but not impossible, especially if we can show he's a present father, a worker, and that the child is better off with him." Second, he helped Tyler gather documentation, work records. Under the table pay stubs Tyler kept neatly in a plastic folder. Photos of Emma from birth onward, medical records, anything that showed Tyler was her father, that he cared for her, that he loved her. Third, and this was the hardest, Marcus went to the bank, withdrew $4,000 from his savings, and paid 2 months' rent for a 1-bedroom apartment in Ironbound. It wasn't luxury, but it had working heat, proper windows, and a smell that wasn't desperation. Tyler cried when he saw the apartment, cried and tried to refuse. "I can't accept this," he said. "It's too much. I'll never be able to pay you back." "I'm not asking you to pay me back," Marcus said, locking the door of the empty apartment and handing him the key. "I'm investing in a child having a decent place to grow up." But the truth Marcus didn't say aloud, was something else. He was doing it because when Sarah started slipping, when she started skipping school, disappearing, no one helped. No one cared enough. Teachers reported her, but never followed up. Neighbors noticed, but didn't step in, and he, her own father, was too busy driving that damn taxi to see it until it was too late. Tyler was the second chance the universe was offering, and this time, Marcus wasn't going to fail. At night, Marcus went back to his own apartment. A small studio in Harrison, minimal furniture, empty walls, a couch, a TV, a bed, nothing hanging, no photos, no memories. He had lived there 8 years and it still looked like a cheap hotel, because that's what his life was. A hotel, a place to sleep between shifts. No purpose, no direction, just existing, driving, repeating, until now. On the 3rd day, at 11 in the morning, Marcus's phone rang. Hospital number. "Mr. Webb?" the nurse said. "Emma is awake, and she's asking for her father. Can you let Mr. Martinez know?" Marcus turned to Tyler, who was sitting at the table in the new apartment, filling out forms Clara had sent. "She's awake," Marcus said, and saw Tyler's face light up like the sunrise. "She's asking for you." The pediatric ICU hallway smelled of antiseptic and hope. Tyler walked beside Marcus with hesitant steps, as if approaching something sacred. And he was. He had changed clothes, showered at the new apartment, but his hands still trembled as he followed the nurse through the double doors. "She's in room 3, the nurse said, a small Filipino woman with a gentle smile. "She woke up an hour ago. She's stable but still weak. 15 minutes of visiting time, okay?" Tyler nodded, unable to speak. Marcus stayed at the door as Tyler walked in. Something about the moment felt too big for intrusion, even well-intentioned. The room was small, the walls painted light blue with stickers of clouds and stars. Medical equipment blinked in green and red around a hospital crib with high rails. And there, tiny against the white sheets, was Emma. She had tubes connected to her little body, a saturation monitor clipped to her toe, wires coming from her diaper. But her eyes, those huge, dark eyes, were open. And when they saw Tyler, something in them changed. Recognition, relief, love. "Papa," Emma murmured. It was only a hoarse whisper, but it thundered through the room. Tyler approached the crib in slow motion, as if any sudden movement might make her disappear. Tears were already falling down his face before he even touched her. "Mi amor," he said, voice breaking. "Mi cielo. Papa is here. Papa will always be here." Emma lifted her little arms, that universal gesture of a child asking to be held. Tyler looked at the nurse, silently asking permission. She nodded and helped disconnect a few of the temporary monitors. When Tyler picked Emma up, the entire world stopped. He held her against his chest as if she were made of thin glass, as if she were the most precious and fragile thing that ever existed. And she was. She absolutely was. "Forgive me," Tyler whispered against her tiny head, kissing the wispy strands of brown hair. "Pardon, pardon, pardon. Papa will never let you get cold again. Never." Emma rested her head on his shoulder and closed her eyes. Not from exhaustion, but from safety. She was home. It didn't matter that they were in a hospital surrounded by machines and fluorescent lights. She was in her father's arms, and that was home. Marcus watched from the doorway, and something inside him that had been frozen for 10 years began to melt. He saw Tyler holding Emma, and he saw himself holding Sarah when she was a baby, saw the promises he made, saw the love he felt, saw everything that might have been if he had made different choices, if he had been present, if he had listened to that last message. But he also saw something else. He saw that even though he couldn't save Sarah, even though he couldn't go back in time and be the father she needed, he had done something. He had stopped that night. He had stayed. He had helped. And that little girl there, that child who almost died of cold in a forgotten motel room, was alive because of it. It didn't erase the pain. It never would. But it meant something. It meant that Sarah somehow was still creating waves of good in the world. Through him. Through this second chance. Marcus closed his eyes and whispered something he hadn't said in years. "Thank you, Sarah." And for the first time, he felt something like forgiveness. Not complete. Maybe never complete. But real enough for him to breathe without that crushing weight on his chest. The nurse gently touched Tyler's shoulder after 15 minutes. "I need to put her back, but you can visit again this afternoon." Tyler kissed Emma once more and placed her back in the crib with reverent care. She murmured in protest, but her eyes were already closing again, exhausted by her own healing. "I'll be back, my princess," Tyler promised. "Papa always comes back." They stepped into the hallway and almost collided with a woman approaching with a leather folder under her arm. She was different from the previous social worker. Older, black hair streaked with gray pulled into a ponytail, warm brown skin, tired but kind eyes. "Mr. Martinez?" she asked. "I'm Rosa Delgado from Social Services. We need to talk." Tyler's heart plummeted. Marcus felt the tension radiate off him like heat. They were taken to a small conference room. Round table, uncomfortable chairs, a motivational poster on the wall reading, "Every day is a new opportunity." Rosa opened the folder and began reading her notes. "So," she began, looking over her reading glasses. "Severe hypothermia due to inadequate heating. Previous residence, motel with poor conditions. Single father. Mother absent. Employment situation. Irregular." Each word was a blade. "But," Rosa continued, and there was something different in her tone now. "You've secured new housing? The address was verified this morning. Adequate apartment, working heating, inspection approved. There's also a support network." She looked at Marcus. "And you are?" "Marcus Webb," he said. "Family friend, Emma's honorary uncle." It was a lie. They had known each other for 3 days. But Rosa looked between them, Tyler tense but present, Marcus steady beside him, and something shifted in her expression. "Mr. Martinez," she said gently, "I'm going to be direct with you because I respect you too much to dance around it. I know." "Know what?" Tyler asked, barely audible. "I know you don't have papers. I know you're here undocumented. I know because I came the same way." The silence that followed was absolute. "Came from Mexico at 20, Rosa continued, now speaking softer, more intimately. "Crossed near Tijuana. Got caught once, deported, tried again. Second time I made it. Worked in a restaurant, a laundry, house cleaning. I was undocumented for 8 years until I married a U.S. citizen. Got my papers. Went to college. Became a social worker." Tyler stared at her like she was a vision. "I'm telling you this," Rosa said, "because I want you to understand that I know exactly who you are. I know what you sacrificed. I know why you worked 2 jobs. I know why you lived in that motel. And I know, she glanced toward Emma through the small window, I know that little girl loves you, and you love her more than your own life. So, Tyler could barely form the words. What's going to happen? Rosa closed the folder. I will recommend that you retain custody with supervision and social support. Regular visits, housing checks, access to resources, childcare, food assistance, everything you're eligible for. Immigration status is not my jurisdiction. I can't and won't report it. My job is to protect the child's well-being. And separating you from her? That would not be in Emma's best interest. Tyler collapsed into the chair and cried. Marcos placed a hand on his shoulder and squeezed. Thank you, Tyler said through sobs. Thank you, thank you. Don't thank me yet, Rosa cautioned. The road ahead is still hard. Immigration is another battle. It could take years. It might not work out. But for now, as long as you do what you need to do, Emma stays with you. When Rosa left, Tyler turned to Marcus. Why? He asked. Why are you doing all this? And Marcus finally told the whole truth. Because I had a daughter named Sarah, and when she needed me, I wasn't there. I was always working, always too busy, always postponing. When she died, it was too late to go back. But you, Tyler, when you banged on my taxi window, I saw a second chance. I saw that I couldn't save Sarah, but I could save Emma. And maybe, just maybe, that means my daughter didn't die for nothing. Tyler took Marcus's hand. She didn't die for nothing, he said. She brought you to me. And in that moment, two men broken by life found something like redemption in each other. 3 months passed like water slipping through fingers. Fast, but leaving permanent marks. Marcus drove his taxi through the familiar streets of Newark on an ordinary Tuesday night. Autumn had arrived, bringing that dry cold that made people walk faster, coats pulled tighter. Dead leaves gathered in the gutters, golden beneath the streetlights. It was 11:30 at night. Marcus had just dropped off an elderly couple at the airport and was heading back toward the city when his phone vibrated on the dashboard mount. Normally, he would ignore it. Driving while checking the phone was asking for trouble. But something made him look. It was a message from Tyler. Marcus pulled the cab into a parking spot and opened it. It was a photo. Emma was standing, holding onto the bars of a new crib. Not that cardboard box lined with towels, but a real crib. White, with colorful sheets decorated with little stars. She was wearing a pale pink onesie. Her brown hair had grown and was tied into 2 tiny pigtails. And she was smiling. Not that weak, tired hospital smile. A huge smile, showing 6 tiny teeth, her eyes shining with joy. The caption read, "First step today. Thank you for everything, brother." Marcus stared at the photo for a long time. He zoomed in to see every detail. Emma's chubby fingers gripping the rail, her rosy, full cheeks, the sunlight coming through the window behind her. A real window, with curtains, with a view of something other than a decaying motel parking lot. And then Marcus smiled. Not a small or reserved smile. A genuine one, wide. The kind of smile that transforms an entire face. The kind of smile he hadn't felt in so long he had forgotten what it was like. His eyes stung, but not from sadness. From something else. Something like happiness. He typed back, "She looks beautiful. Congratulations, champ." The reply was quick. "You're her godfather. You always will be." Marcus put the phone away and sat there in the parked cab, listening to the engine purr softly. He looked at the digital clock on the dashboard. 11:47 p.m. He still had hours of work ahead of him. But suddenly, working didn't feel like the life sentence it used to be. It felt like purpose. He put the taxi back in motion, but didn't return to the taxi stand. He turned in another direction, a direction he had avoided for 10 years. Mount Pleasant Cemetery sat on the edge of the city, a silent sea of headstones and old trees. The gates closed at midnight, but Marcus knew a side entrance that was always unlocked. Taxi drivers know every shortcut, every secret a city hides. He parked near Section C, grabbed the bouquet of daisies he had bought at a 24-hour market on the way, and walked through the damp grass. He knew the path by heart, even though he hadn't been there since the funeral. Row 17. seventh stone on the left. Sarah Elizabeth. Webb, 1998, 2014. Beloved daughter. Your light keeps shining. Marcus knelt in the grass before the gray granite stone. He placed the flowers at the base. For a long moment he said nothing. He simply sat there, feeling the cold night breeze, listening to the rustling leaves in the surrounding trees. "Hi, Sarah," he finally said, his voice rough. "It's been a while, I know. I'm sorry. I couldn't come. Every time I thought about coming, it felt like I was going to drown." He wiped his eyes with the back of his hand. "But today I needed to. I needed to tell you something." Marcus sat down on the grass, leaning his back against the cold headstone, looking up at the night sky sprinkled with stars. "I met someone 3 months ago. Tyler. He banged on my taxi window in the middle of the night, barefoot, holding his daughter who was almost dying of cold. And you know what I saw when I looked at him? I saw you. I saw a chance to do things differently, to be present, to not fail." He took a deep breath. "I didn't save you, Sarah. That's the truth that will haunt me until the day I die. I failed. I was always working, always in that damn taxi, always too busy. And when you needed me, when you sent that message, I didn't pick up. I carried that like a stone on my chest for 10 years. Thought I'd never breathe right again." A leaf drifted down from a nearby tree, landing gently on the headstone. But that night, when I stopped the taxi to help Tyler and Emma, something changed. It didn't erase the pain. Nothing will ever erase it. But it showed me I can still do something good. That your broken, flawed father can still be useful to someone. Marcus looked at the daisies he had brought. "Emma took her first step today. Tyler sent a picture. She's healthy, smiling, living in a real apartment. She has a father who loves her, who fights for her every day. And part of that is because of you, Sarah. Because you taught me what happens when we don't pay attention. When we put work before love. When we postpone the important things until it's too late." He stood, brushed the grass off his pants, and touched the stone with his hand. "I didn't save you, but I saved her. And that doesn't erase what I lost, doesn't bring you back, doesn't undo my choices. But it means your life, our love, still created something good in this world. I carry you with me when I help someone else. You're here." He touched his chest, reminding me to be better, to not fail again. Tears streamed freely down his face now, but Marcus didn't try to stop them. "I love you, sweetheart. I'll always love you. I'll always miss you. I'll always carry the weight of what I didn't do. But now I carry something else too. I carry the hope that I can honor your memory by doing what I didn't do for you, being present for someone who needs me." He kissed the tips of his fingers and touched her name on the stone. "Rest in peace, my girl. And thank you. Thank you for giving me the strength to stop that night." Marcus returned to the taxi. It was 12:43 a.m. now. He drove back to Newark, toward the familiar streets, the familiar lights. He turned on the taxi radio and accepted a ride request. Life moved on. It always moved on. At 3:47 a.m., exactly 3 months after the night that changed everything, Marcus found himself driving down Riverside Avenue. He passed the Riverside Motel, which now had a new sign, "Under new management." He passed the exact spot where Tyler had pounded on his window, desperate, with Emma in his arms. No one was running barefoot this time. No desperate man, no child dying of cold. Just an empty, drizzly street, neon lights reflecting on the asphalt. But Marcus slowed down anyway, looked around, paid attention. Because now, he understood something fundamental. Something Sarah had taught him through her absence, and Tyler had confirmed through his presence. Some people are placed in our path for a reason, not by chance, because we are exactly what they need at the darkest moment of their lives. And they, Tyler with his honest despair, Emma with her resilient fragility, were exactly what Marcus needed to find light again, to remember that it wasn't too late, that there was still purpose, that there was still a reason to wake up every morning and drive that taxi through the streets of Newark. At the next stoplight, Marcus glanced into the rearview mirror at the back seat. The marks from Tyler's bare feet were no longer there. They had been cleaned long ago, erased by normal use, by dozens of other passengers who sat there without knowing the story that seat carried. But the memory remained, carved not into the worn upholstery, but somewhere much deeper, in the invisible scars that now carried meaning, in the pain that had transformed into purpose, in the emptiness that had been filled not with forgetfulness, but with something new. Marcus turned his eyes back to the road ahead, and he kept driving through Newark's night, attentive, present, alive, ready for the next person who needed help, ready for the next chance to make a difference, ready to carry Sarah with him in every act of kindness, in every moment of presence, in every decision not to look away. The yellow taxi disappeared into the night, its taillights glowing red like promises. And somewhere in the city, in a small but warm apartment, Emma slept peacefully in her new crib, safe in the invisible arms of everyone who had fought to save her. Some stories don't have happy endings, but this one had something better. It had hope.